In a world where personal accountability is just an outdated concept and luxury Porsche sports cars are meant to drive themselves, we must tip our hats off to Pune's Agarwal family for reminding us of the time-tested mechanism of blame shifting. Their innovative approach to handling a tragic car accident has set a new standard, viewer, in turning tragic misfortune into opportunity. Last Sunday, the Agarwal's underage son was in a Porsche that hurtled at 160 kilometers per hour into a motorcycle, killing 2 young people and destroying 2 families. Tragic? Yes. Avoidable? Absolutely. But what's truly fascinating in how this seemingly dire situation is transformed into a masterclass of modern-day problem solving. Enter their driver, Gangaram. A long-time family employee, Gangaram has always been the quiet, unassuming type, the kind of guy who does his job without a fuss. That's him in those pictures we just showed you. Never asking for much. Little did Gangaram know his loyalty and humility were about to pay off, just not in the way that Gangaramji might have hoped. The blood of Ashwini and Anish hadn't even dried on the road. The mangled remains of their motorcycle hadn't even been pushed to the side when the Agarwals apparently sprang into action, according to the police. No, not to render aid or take stock of the situation, but to apparently concoct a narrative that would safeguard their underage teenage son, who they had permitted to proceed with a 2 crore rupee sports car on a pub crawling expedition with his friends. Which is why within barely hours of this accident, from the family to the lawyer to the friends, everyone quickly and unitedly pointed a finger away from the underage teenager, and some of them were pointing directly at their family driver, Gangaram. Remember that the crowds had pulled out the driver of the car, not Gangaram, namely the family's underage son, all captured in those pictures, but then who cares about the facts that have now been confirmed by the Pune police? Gangaram, aap hi to chala rahe the, one family member may have just suggested. A statement so smoothly delivered possibly may have sounded like a friendly reminder to the poor family driver. I'm of course only conjecturing here since nobody has heard any of these real conversations. Another family member may have well chimed in saying, Gangaram ji, aapko shayad yaad nahi hoga, aapko kabhi-kabhi chakkar bhi aate hain, shayad isliye gaadi chalate waqt accident ho gaya hoga. Meanwhile, the underage son himself was apparently naming poor Gangaram right off the bat. So it was nice and neat. Blood still fresh, bodies yet to be handed over to the families and cremated, but it was Gangaram that the family was hoping would be convinced to take the blame and take the fall. In the images that you see of Gangaram being produced by the police, taken for questioning, in these images that you see, it's an obedient Gangaram being brought for questioning. Even in these devastating circumstances, after apparently being persuaded, allegedly being persuaded to take the blame for this terrible accident, he does a namaste for the cameras. Always the good, obedient family employee, always doing what he's told, ever questioning orders. That's what it looks like. Some might say these alleged actions were deceitful, immoral, or even downright villainous. But let's consider the positives, if there are any, for a moment, viewer. The Agarwals seem to have demonstrated a level of family unity and priority and cooperation rarely seen in these times of flying tempers and chaotic relationships. In a society increasingly fragmented by individualism, the Agarwals, to some, may have actually showed us that family really does come first to VIPs, no matter what the cost. Moreover, this incident provides a valuable reminder of that timeless lesson in crisis management. When faced with a problem, don't just react. Pivot for God's sake. Find a convenient scapegoat, preferably one like Gangaram who cannot afford a good lawyer, and ensure the narrative aligns with your interests. It's a strategy that has served corporations and politicians well for centuries. Why should the average wealthy family be any different? As a final thought, for all the abuse and vitriol, sometimes justified, that journalists get for so-called media trials, let's wonder if this time-tested method of blame shifting onto someone like a Gangaram would be allowed to play out if the media wasn't watching. That's just something to think about. Thanks for listening.